Hey guys!
Hello.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to Nerdolitics. I'm
Happy
Meg.
Labor Day. I'm
Yes, happy
Jackie.
Labor Day. Yes, we have some Labor Day stories. We
We
have a
do.
couple. I mean, it's not really a story, but it's definitely something we can talk about.
Okay.
But how are you guys doing? I see Matt's in the chat. Emoji? I'm not sure I'm familiar with emoji, but welcome to the show. There's Robin. What's up, Robin?
Hey guys, what's up? What is
What's up?
map? If that's the map that I'm thinking you're talking about, then
Then he
no.
corrected himself. MPP.
Oh, okay. I was like,
No,
what
this
the hell?
movie is clearly not about MPP. No.
No, today, with the Vanguard, we're talking Snowpiercer.
It's gonna be good. I watched Snowpiercer last night. That way I could make sure. Like, this is my first time watching Snowpiercer too. I liked it.
You never saw it before?
No, I hadn't seen it before, but I watched it so I watched it for the first time and I really enjoyed it. I am on the Snowpiercer train, as it were.
I was gonna say. All right. So,
Thank
do we
you,
have
Jane.
any?
Just smash that like. Yes, definitely.
Do we have any news to start the day with?
So obviously today is Labor Day. So happy Labor Day, everybody.
Indeed.
Of course, this was apparently a great opportunity for our Congress to decide that they were going to end unemployment benefits. So unemployment benefits are up today. So as Matt Brunig tweets here, happy Labor Day, everyone. Today, 9.3 million unemployed workers will have their benefits cut, deprive them and 26 million members of their household income. This will not increase employment. This is during a COVID spike, and Biden supports the cuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, happy Labor Day! Biden hates, and as a little fun surprise, or actually not a surprise because we all knew this was coming, but Biden for Labor Day decided to kick every person, he basically decided to spit in all of our faces. He decided to spit labor in our faces by cutting benefits. Another one from Ron Placone here. The fact that they're ending unemployment benefits during a pandemic and on Labor Day should dispel any doubts that our government is anything more than a corporate coup sponsored by Wall Street. So,
Yes.
Jackie, what is your immediate reaction?
That was a weird rabbit hole that you threw us
Sorry.
in for a second there. I was
Sorry
like,
about
what's
that.
happening? There was not even a right rabbit. Um, my thoughts are, I hear an echo again, and it's driving me nuts. Sorry.
Oh, I don't hear
I don't
it.
know where it's coming from, but I'm
Sorry,
hearing an echo.
I have headphones in. I don't hear anything.
Okay, I changed my gain, and I still hear the echo. All right. Let me make sure that my camera is not doing anything hinky again, because it's driving me crazy. Aha! 2 apps. Oh wait, hold on. Okay, sorry. You go ahead, because I have to fix this, or it's gonna make me nuts.
Yeah, and as human love, so Jackson Hinkle is live on the Capitol steps. Good for him. Hey, Malik. So, just imagine that for a second, that Labor Day, the day that we use to basically celebrate all the gains that labor has made, like the weekend. And that's one of the things why we have Labor Day, is because we're celebrating a long weekend. They got us the weekend. They got us a 40-hour work week. They eliminated basically child slavery in the United States. In the United States. Not in other places. Just the United States. But so we have all these gains that labor has brought about. And then all of a sudden this year, as a thanks to labor for all of their hard work, like, sorry, we're going to end unemployment. We're going to end unemployment benefits. Sorry, maybe you guys should go back to work, even though it's hard to go back to work right now because one, there are not enough jobs that pay a living wage and have benefits and also have good security for their workers, that where they're not catching COVID. Because I don't know about you, Jackie, but here in Florida, they have rolled back basically all COVID precautions. Like a lot of the schools had like plexiglass up in the front offices. Plexiglass gone. Mask
Really?
mandates gone.
Wow. No, they
Yeah.
haven't done that here. People in depends on what part you're in, because I live in Orange County, but I work in LA County. LA County is still on mask mandates. They had repealed them. They let them go for a minute, and then they brought them back, which was really stupid because once they let them go, there are people who just refuse to go back. And then Orange County never really, like, they had mask mandates, but nobody ever enforced them. And then as soon as they repealed it, they never unrepealed it. So they're just like, we don't give a shit. And there's no like hard line between the two. It's just like most people don't even know the difference between LA and Orange County, like where the line is. So you have people from Orange County that will go up to LA and be like, why do I have to wear a mask? It's like, because now you're in LA County. So
Yeah.
But the plexiglass and all that stuff, everything, like all the social distancing signs, those are all up. People just ignore them. So nobody, like, anything that was physical that changed is still that way. The only difference is, like, restaurants had to take out, or not take out, but like disable tables in between to keep social distancing. And then in June, everybody was just allowed to go back to the way it was before, and everybody did. And now places actually have even a higher capacity because a lot of places like made these makeshift restaurants where like during the time when you couldn't eat indoors, you could only eat outdoors. Places that didn't have a patio kind of moved their tables outside so that they could stay open or so that they could reopen. But then they covered it so that I'm like, isn't that inside anyway? But anyway, those places didn't change that. They're still there. So so now restaurants that didn't have an outside, that didn't have a patio, have a patio, and restaurants that had a patio but created like a second patio so they could make more money now have like two patios. And you would think like, okay, you're not on that. Clearly, they're not going to go back into lockdown because Newsom is facing a recall because of it. So he's not going to put us back on a lockdown, even though we should be. So you would think that they would like get rid of that stuff, but then they realized they could just, they could keep it open and make more money. So now there are like there's an area in Long Beach that used to have sidewalks, and the sidewalk has essentially turned into a part of the restaurant because they can have more tables out there now. So there are some measures that I don't even think are going to go back because I don't think those restaurants are going to give up that extra area. And like the plexiglass and stuff, I think that's a permanent fixture. I don't see that coming down either.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is in Florida. And even in, like, the supervisor of education and Ron DeSantis are both trying to basically ban mask mandates in Florida. So that way no county can do it. But there are counties like Alachua County where Gainesville and University of Florida are, where they are basically saying, we dare you to tell us that we can't have mask mandates. And so they're standing up against the state. So I definitely respect Alachua for what they're doing up there.
Okay, I get saying you can't make people wear masks because, freedom. But to actually ban mask mandates goes against freedom. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. A quick shout out. So, hey Layla, hey Quaker Socialist. Good to see you guys here. Another something from Layla. Money is the only religion in this country. Agreed. And that's why it's so... So how do you feel, though, about the unemployment being taken away? Especially on Labor Day.
Well, that just shows you what we were saying all along.
Yeah.
They don't care about you or your well-being. Democrats, I feel like the biggest myth that we need to dispel about Democrats is that they give a shit. They don't. They are just as corporate-owned as the Republicans. And they do things like this to let you know, hey, we are just as corporate-owned as the Republicans. And do people pay attention to that? No, they make fucking excuses for it. I saw a TikTok earlier today where someone was pointing out that during the vice presidential debates, Biden was like, "No, I'm not for gay marriage. No, neither myself or Barack Obama are for gay marriage." And then later in 2021, he changed his rhetoric. He changed his rhetoric. He didn't change and all the comments were like, "Oh, it's like he learned and grew." No, he fucking didn't. Okay, he didn't. Right, like during the primaries, somebody had asked him about the Hyde Amendment, and he was still in favor. Okay, he has never changed his stance on anything. Mm-hmm. His speechwriters have changed what they're saying because if he were to tell the truth, when he tells the truth, that's when he's like, "No, a woman doesn't have a right to control her own body." He has outright said that. When he's telling the truth, he's like, "No, I don't believe gays should be able to get married." Again, outright said it. But then when a speechwriter comes along and it's like, "No, that's not the point. The Democratic Party believes the opposite. You have to say this." Then he's like, "Yeah, so of course they should get married. Why wouldn't they?" He didn't change shit, okay? His feelings are not... He didn't learn and grow. What happened was he became an actual major player because before, he wasn't really a major player. He was a senator and eventually vice president. But then after that, he went back to, after he was vice president, he went back to just saying how he really felt about stuff. And you can look this shit up. He said it plainly and openly. The difference is now, because he's president and he's in a position of power, people are like, okay, if you want to be able to maintain that power, you're going to have to change what you say. That doesn't mean he changed what he believed at all. Mm-hmm. But there's so many people who are willing to come out and defend him. Oh, he changed. He didn't change shit.
Nope.
The only thing he changed was speechwriters. And that's the problem. It's no matter what the Democrats do, this is the problem with partisan politics. People are so my team, they don't stop to realize what their team is doing and that their team does not play for them. So he's been pushing, creating, writing, the whole thing. He has been, because ACG said Biden is a major player, he's been pushing racist policies for decades. He was also writing those racist policies for decades. And that's why I thought it was hilarious that people were like, "Oh, Black Lives Matter, we have to get a Democrat in there." And I'm like, says who? You know, Black Lives Matter started during not only the Democratic president, but the Black Democratic president. Mm-hmm. Things aren't as you think. Looks aren't as they appear. You got to look deeper than the surface. The difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is Republicans tell you how they actually want to govern, and Democrats tell you what you want to hear so they can do the exact same thing.
Pretty much. Oh, thank you, Quaker Socialist. Yes, we are at 9.09 subs. Thank you. Yes, help us get to 10K. Hashtag FHL to 10K. Okay, now I'm hearing the echo. Is my mic too loud?
I heard it before. I have no idea where it's coming from. I've checked all of my settings. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it's coming from.
Stephanie, I would go over to the dive, but we have other stuff to talk about. If we didn't have stuff to talk about, then we would probably switch over. But this is a structured show, damn it. Just kidding. Structured show. That's funny.
Huh.
Yeah. I always wanted to like Joe Biden, but when you dig into it, there is and anything I'm assuming that was me, there isn't anything to like.
Okay.
So that's what I'm assuming.
There isn't anything there to like, I think is
there isn't anything there to like. And you're totally right. You're absolutely right. There is nothing to like about Joe Biden. Absolutely nothing. I think that the reason that people get so attached to Joe Biden is, one, because he was Barack Obama's vice president, obviously, but also it's this weird torture porn thing that's going on because of how many, he lost his wife, he lost his daughter, he lost his son to cancer. So it's like, okay, we get it. He's had a lot of, he's had a lot go on in his life. We get it. He's lost a lot. But that's not a reason to vote for him for president if he's going to make our lives worse. Like, he is no better than Trump. He really isn't. The only thing that he's better on is rhetoric. That's the only thing that he's better on is rhetoric.
Honestly,
and even, like,
not
this
even that.
much.
Honestly, the only thing, it's not even the rhetoric that he's better at, because if you actually, anytime you catch him off guard and you get the real him, he's almost identical to Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
The difference between he and Trump is he has more charisma. Trump has no charisma. That's literally the difference.
Yeah.
Trump is extremely abrasive, but here's where Trump has the advantage. Trump is funny. Biden's not funny, but he's charismatic. And people love charisma. That's why people voted for Bush. The second Bush, baby Bush. That's why people voted for Clinton. People vote for people that they think they could have a beer with. And Joe's image is working class Joe. That's why everybody likes him. Donald Trump is unabashedly a billionaire. That's why everybody hates him. They are both narcissists. So don't sit here and say, no, he's a narcissist. They are both narcissists. The difference is one is more charming and one is funnier. But essentially, that's it. Oh, but Donald Trump's a racist. So the fuck is Joe Biden. Okay?
Yep.
Just as racist. Equal.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, and it's totally clear that Joe Biden and I'll say most of the Democrats, but Joe Biden and most of the Democrats, they don't give a shit about us. They don't. They give zero fucks. Zero fucks. You want to pass a good fucks? They don't have one. You know? It's just because they don't. Because if they actually did, they wouldn't be letting unemployment lapse on Labor Day. They wouldn't be letting it lapse at all. We're still in the middle of a goddamn pandemic.
I mean, but here's the thing, though. Why do people think that Joe Biden would care about unemployment when he spent 20 years trying to cut what they call entitlements? They're not. Yeah, you're entitled because you put money into that so that it can be there later for you. Yeah, you're entitled to take that money back out, like Social Security. You pay into it every paycheck. When you get older, it's supposed to come back to you. So yes, you're entitled to that money. He's been trying to gut that for 20, 30 years. So I don't understand why people thought that he would be any better. ACG, I prefer Trump racism. Tell me how you really feel so I can be prepared. Thank you.
Basically.
I would much rather deal with the overt narcissist than the covert narcissist. Because the overt narcissist you can see coming. The covert narcissist will stab you in the back because they can get close enough. By the way, that's pretty much a metaphor for the Republican and Democratic parties. I don't prefer Republicans, but at least they tell you. At least they're honest with you. They're like, or not necessarily honest, but they're open. They're like, hey, we don't like that you have the right to say over your body. We're going to try to take that away. And Democrats are like, no, she has the right to do whatever she wants to. We're going to charge every single thing, and we're going to make it virtually impossible for it to happen. But she has the right. They come in pretending to be white knights, but those swords are to stab you to the back.
Yeah, because then they'll just turn around whenever Republicans do start rolling back abortion rights or start rolling back labor rights. They're like, what can we do? The parliamentarian is in the way. Manchin's in the way of us doing anything. It's like, fuck you. If you actually wanted to do anything, you'd find a way to do things. Like, seriously.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said it, like, next year, Democrats want to lose. They don't like having total power because then people can point out the fact that they don't do anything with it or that they are essentially the same as the Republicans. That's why they want to lose so that they can blame the Republicans. But if they can't blame the Republicans, then they'll blame either the former administration or they will have sacrificial lambs in the form of somebody like Manchin and Sinema.
Yeah, the revolving villain.
Something. They always have the scapegoat. Nobody takes responsibility for anything.
No. I like this point from Paul Smith. So Democrats are Reagan Republicans and they despise FDR. And Obama even said that he was a Reagan Republican. Joe Biden is further to the right than Reagan.
Yeah, he was when Reagan was in office. A lot of people forget that. You can actually look up the things that these people voted for when they were senators. you can see that he's the one who gave us like several Republican justices. Another thing that people were like, "Oh, we have to have him because if RGB, like if Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, then we need a Democrat." Okay, well, first of all, she knew she was old and had cancer when Obama was in office, and she could have stepped down, so he could have replaced her. Second, the Democrats allowed the Republicans to, when I don't remember who it was, but there was another justice that did step down during Obama's term. Democrats allowed Republicans to push off the vote and allow a Republican in. So don't sit there and say, "Oh, it's all the Republicans' fault." No, the Democrats had power at the time, and they could have said, "No, we're getting a president right now, or we're getting a new justice right now." The same way the Republicans did when Trump was in office. Because Democrats could have done the exact same thing to Trump the Republicans did to them and said, "No, we're going to wait till Biden takes over." But they didn't. Nope. Because they don't give a shit. Because at the end of the day, they're all paid by the same people. Anywho, anything else to talk about this week? Besides Democrats are bad and so are Republicans?
Well, I mean, that was really the big thing. Oh, no, of course, they're still kind of staying on the same track that, so they did a polling on, right before Labor Day about the minimum wage, because this is related. So according to Newsweek, according to a poll that was just ahead of Labor Day, 71% of Americans support a federal minimum wage hike. 71%. And according to another piece, let me bring up here. So 71% believe that we need to raise the minimum wage. And then if we bring up this other piece here, bring this up, from CBS News, they are also getting with the program that says that minimum wage would be $26 an hour if it had grown in line with productivity. And yet, we still cannot raise the minimum wage, even to $15 an hour, which is still too low. So, we should be fighting for 25 to survive. 100%. Jackie, what's your immediate reaction? 71% of Americans believe that we need to raise the minimum wage.
Why are the other 29 not?
Good point.
That's my immediate reaction, is why do the other 29 not believe that it should be raised? It clearly should be raised. Mm-hmm. I still don't get why billionaires who know anything about history don't want people to make more money. I feel like it's like, okay, you've had enough money. You literally have $1 billion. People are dying, people are starving, people are like, there's mass homelessness. This is the time, in order to keep us from eating you, that you should be like,
we'll get to that.
Social programs, raise the minimum wage. I don't care, don't come for me.
And that's the one reason that FDR was actually smart, is that he saw the writing on the wall. And he went to his rich friends and said, "Guys, we have to do something here, otherwise they're going to revolt. So we need to be doing these programs."
At that point, socialists and communists were literally at his door. Yeah. That, by the way, is what sparked the reaction of socialism and communism is bad, hence McCarthyism, hence why stupid-ass people still think, "Oh, communism's bad," even though they don't know why. And the first thing they love to say is, "It never worked." Why did it never work? There's this little country called the United States that is like, "Oh, see, you got some freedom there. See, some people are you got some equality. Be shamed if somebody came in and installed a puppet dictator and completely took you over and used you as an example of how that doesn't work over and over and over again, like we've done to tons of different countries around the world."
It had friends like, the UK and France. Even though France is pretty decent on things like the minimum wage and everything. Like, they're still allies to the United States and allowing them to get away with all this shit.
What we need is an influx of French. Because French have balls that we don't. They literally painted their prime minister's walls with shit because he did something they don't like. They had a vaccine mandate to respond. They literally burned all their vaccine cards. People who were vaccinated and who were not against vaccination burned their vaccine cards in protest of the mandate, saying you can't mandate whether somebody gets vaccinated or not. And then in response, the prime minister was like, okay, or I keep saying prime minister. I think France has a president.
Yeah, they have a president.
In response, the president said, okay, like for the vaccine mandate, everybody who, if you're not, you cannot get inside, kind of like what New York did, where like you can't go into a restaurant and eat, you can't go to the grocery store, you can't go inside buildings if you don't have a vaccine, like if you don't have like the vaccine passport. So in response, they literally sat in the street outside of restaurants, would not go in, would sit outside of the street and did like basically a sit-in, and were like, mandate this. So anytime there is something that French citizens disagree with, they protest en masse.
Yeah, they do.
And they will literally shit on your house, like literally, or they'll bust out the guillotines. They're like, look, it's this or that. You're going to change. What's up? So, like...
And they will, because they've done it before.
I think the French are, like, the only Western country that have somewhat close to a representational government. Because the moment the government doesn't represent them, pitchforks and guillotines, bitches, they're like, we're not playing. They're the ones who gave us all of the labor things, like the labor symbolism that we have, like pitchforks, literally pitchforks, guillotines, yellow vest. That's all France.
Yeah. Although we are seeing much more movement in countries like Spain, for instance. We're seeing a lot of movement in Spain. Though, Quaker, I do get your point that France is really two-faced. This week there was serious issues. I do get that. And, no country is perfect, obviously. And, they also have a lot of female nationalism in France, with the burqa bans and things like that. So we definitely... Let's not celebrate all of France, but let's at least celebrate the things that they are good at. Something that Robert is saying here.
I'm talking about the people, not the government.
The people of France.
We're entirely talking people.
Yeah. And I like what Robert Hutchings has to say here, too. Minimum wage. Oh, what about the mom and pops? That's always the counter-argument that I hear every single fucking time. And I agree with that, Robert. And something that Stephanie Kelton writes in The Deficit Myth is that one of the problems that we have in our government is that the Small Business Administration is so tiny versus the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce is basically designed to help big business and to help corporations, whereas the Small Business Administration is very small in the Department of Treasury, I think, and it has a very tiny budget compared to the Department of Commerce. It should be the other way around. We should have a Department of Small Business Administration, very small Department of Commerce, because you could very easily raise the minimum wage, and whatever small business is struggling to pay a $15 minimum wage or $25 minimum wage, you can easily subsidize that. There's no reason why they couldn't be, except that they don't give a shit about small businesses. They don't. They give zero fucks about small businesses. Zero. So.
Yes, this is true.
Did you have a couple other points?
I'm still trying to find the point of that echo.
Yeah. Also, Gene, Occupy the Capitol Steps is happening right now, and Afeni just gave powerful speech. Awesome. Definitely send it to me, and we should definitely put that up. Just, it'll depend on time, if we have time.
So, yeah, see, I still hear it. Drive me nuts.
I don't know why you hear it. I don't.
I can hear it. I don't know. I can hear the echo. Anywho, the reason why the elites don't pay decent wages is because the more money they pay workers, the less they can exploit them.
Also true, yeah. We kind of have lost adults. We kind of have a $240 billion a year police state. So I don't know if the French would be any more brave than we are up against that. That's a valid point. Like, the police state is very highly militarized here. Even if you consider, like, the UK the UK does not have a militarized police force. They carry around batons, but that's really about it. I don't even think they carry guns.
Well, I mean, the only reason why our military, the only reason why our police is militarized is because when it's because of the military-industrial complex and capitalism. Yeah. Basically, like we said last week, I think we said it on the roundtable. The military, like, they have to spend the money in order to be able to justify spending the money. So then they spend so that they can get more money, which is just stupid. It's like, if you don't need more money, then just stop, just get less money. But every single year we give the military more money, which is hilarious because the Pentagon never gets audited and they keep giving them money. Mm-hmm. If you had a kid and you were giving that kid an allowance, and that kid every single week came back and said, I need more money for allowance, and you asked, what are you spending it on? And they're like, don't worry about it, just give me more. Would that be okay with you? Like, what parent would be like, okay, here's more? An idiot. That's it. Yeah. That's essentially what. Yeah, and they don't even get audited, and when they do get audited, they lose anywhere from $21 to $35 trillion with a T.
Yeah.
And somehow we're just like, all right, well, here's a few more billion every year. It's insane. And so what ends up happening is, when it comes down to the end of the year, they have to justify the spending, right? They have to prove that they actually spent all the money that Congress gave them. So they will hire mercenaries for stupid shit. Or, like, I think it was you who pointed out, like, they'll pay, $10,000 for a mattress. When they could buy mattresses for $100, they'll pay $10,000 so they can spend that money. Why? To justify spending that money so that they can get more money. And then after a while, you have so much, when you buy so many war weapons, you have to justify spending money on war weapons, which means you need a war. So then you start a war to be able to keep paying for weapons of war. And then what happens when we come back from a war? Well, now we have all these weapons that we don't need, that we've been paying for. So what are we going to do with them? Well, some of them we sell, some of them we destroy, very few of them we destroy. Most of them we either sell or we just give to local police stations. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have a militarized police state. That and Joe Biden.
That's a good point, Delbert. Thank you for updating on that, about that more and more police in the UK are routinely armed with lethal weapons. They all carry sublethal, so-called weaponry, as Brett kind of follows up on that. Brett follows up on that. We have an armed response units here in the UK, but our day-to-day coppers will have truncheons, stun guns, and CFC gas. Oh boy.
Yeah, see, our day-to-day cops... Mm-hmm. look like your military, and our military look like a dystopian nightmare. Like, basically,
though,
like, I wonder why we even need SWAT, because like local branches have essentially SWAT material.
I know, it's kind of insane. Okay, so let's move on to something fun. So, how was your reaction to this week's? Let's talk about this week's What If. And in this week's What If, we got evil Doctor Strange. So in this new universe, which I liked the way that the Watcher really got involved in this episode. This was the first episode he really became involved in this story. And so in this one, this is a universe where instead of losing his hands, Doctor Strange lost his heart. And he lost his heart because in this universe, because in the film, he went to he was driving by himself when he was going to the award ceremony or whatever. But in this universe, Christine was going to go with him. Christine, played by Rachel McAdams, was going to go with him. And so they were driving, and rather than like being distracted by something on a screen and hitting a wall and spinning out of control. First, he was trying to pass a truck, and a car was coming at him. He went back behind the truck, but then another guy slammed in behind him and pushed them off the side of the road. And thank you, Matthew. I'll definitely look at those memes in just a second. So Christine dies, and that's his impetus for going on his journey to find out how to use the mystical arts. And so everything plays out as it did in the movie. The Ancient One dies, he takes on Dormammu, and then now he's in a position where he's the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's still can't forget Christine. Which, I'm sorry, I didn't see that much of a relationship between them in the movie for him to be, that concerned about Christine. But, I'll go along with it. So he decides to Groundhog Day his experience losing Christine and try to stop the events from happening. And she just dies over and over and over again in front of him. And so he's trying to figure out, okay, how the hell do I stop her from dying? And so the spirit of the Ancient One comes back, basically tells him, you can't stop an absolute point. Her death is an absolute point in time, and you can't stop that from happening. It doesn't matter what you do to try to stop it, you're not going to be able to stop it. He's like, well, according to Caligostro in his book, there is a way to do it. So I just have to find Caligostro and find out because he figured out how to stop an absolute point in time. So I need to go figure out how the hell he did it. So he goes back, I think he goes back in time. I'm assuming he does. He goes back in time to one of the libraries of Caligostro. He meets Obane, who takes him to the library. He's the librarian for the Library of Caligostro. And he starts reading all about how to stop the absolute point. And in order to do that, he needs to absorb all this power from these different beings. So he starts first he tries calling up the octopus that we saw in the Captain Carter episode. And
Shumagorath, I'm pretty sure that's
Shumagorath, yeah. So he tries to absorb that power, but that was like, yeah, right, buddy. That's not going to happen. He got thrown around a little bit. So he starts bringing up other beings first that he can absorb. So he starts absorbing all of these beings. Oh, Michael K. Williams, Omar from The Wire, just passed away at age 54. Not sure what the cause. Oh, well, rest in peace. Very sad to hear that. So, I'll bring that up real quick. That was Michael K. Williams, Omar from The Wire, passed at age 54. It's very sad. That is way too young. I don't know either, but that's very young. So he's absorbing the power of all these beings like dragons and other things, and then finally he's able to absorb the tentacles of Shumagorath, but he still can't quite. He doesn't still quite have the power. So we find out that when the Ancient One was talking to Doctor Strange and telling him, you can't stop an absolute point, when he was about to go back in time, she tried to stop him, and she did it by basically splitting him in half. So that way there's two Doctor Stranges in that same timeline. So the other Doctor Strange, when Wong was trying to get him to come have tea, and he was like, right before he decided, I'm going to try to save Christine, he's like, you know what, yeah, you're right, I had to take a break and not think about her for a minute. So he was going to go have tea. So now we have these two Doctor Stranges that are now going to basically fight, because evil Doctor Strange wants to basically combine their strength in order to become one again. That way he has enough strength in order to stop Christine's death. And so they have their fight, and evil Doctor Strange wins. He brings Christine back to life, but he's becomes so distorted with all this power that she's completely freaked out by him. And the universe just starts collapsing all around them because he's trying to stop this absolute point. So by the end of the episode, like, he's begging the Watcher, like, why won't you do anything? It's like, I can't do anything. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't. Because I can't. So, and I'll just, as time goes on, as Christine is, like, dying in front of him in his arms again, like, just vaporizing away, she's like, Steven, what did you do? And he's like, I'm so sorry. Because, like, the world is literally collapsing on them until, like, all that's left is him.
And then it collapses on him.
Yep.
Which,
I expect,
go back in time, though.
Yeah. He didn't go back in time. Okay. I wasn't sure.
He was just split because part of him was split to go because he really wanted to find the library, and so he just went to like an ancient temple to find it. But it was what happened was he ended up. So he didn't go back in time, but he was there for a long time, and he kind of basically sat like a mirror dimension. He was there for like thousands of years, but within essentially the same time that his other self was experiencing normal time.
Yeah. No, we have not had the Snowpiercer discussion yet, Lily. That's going to be in about 20 minutes. The Vanguard will be here in about 20 minutes, and we're going to talk about the Snowpiercer. Right now, we're just talking about What If. We're recapping.
Yep.
So, how did you feel about the episode this week?
I didn't like it.
No,
that was dumb.
Funny enough, I thought this was a good episode.
Of course. You don't like the episodes I like, and I can't stand the episodes that you're like, that's great.
That's what's so funny about this. Like, you and I have very opposite opinions on this.
You loved the first episode. I hated it. I was like, this is so dumb. If this is what the show is going to be like. But then the second episode came and I was like, hey, that's awesome. That was great. And the third one I was like, oh, see? Yeah, much better. And you were like, no, this is dumb. And then the fourth episode and I'm like, oh, we're back to this shit again. This is dumb. And you were like, hey, awesome. So yeah, we're complete opposite.
Although we both loved episode 2.
I mean, everybody loved episode 2.
Episode 2 was amazing. Episode 2
I thought episode 3 was really good, and you were like, nah, it was dumb. Whereas I thought this one was dumb.
So what did you not like about this episode?
The whole thing. I can't stand Doctor Strange. I think he's an arrogant douche. Also, you basically had him take his arrogant douchebaggery to extreme heights and have him eliminate the universe. So the whole universe has to suffer. Because it wasn't just his world, it was his entire universe, because these are all multiverse stories. Whole multiverse, like his whole universe was destroyed because of his arrogance. That's dumb. That's dumb.
Yeah, that's also very Doctor Strange, though. That, like, as you said, he's a very arrogant character, so of course, for him, if, God forbid, he decided to go in the wrong direction, then he would be that arrogant as to destroy his entire universe. Like, even though he was warned several times. Like, if you go about this, that you will destroy the universe. It's like, well, I don't care. I want Christine back.
He's a child. Like, he's a fucking child. He, in this episode, the version of him that actually succeeds is like around 2,000 years old. Because remember, he was in there for thousands of years, right? So let's just cap it at 2 and say he's like 2,000 years old. Why is he a fucking toddler that is like, I don't care if everything gets destroyed. I will literally burn the universe. I want her back for 20 minutes. And then immediately after she comes back, she's like, you're a monster. Because when she comes back, he has used like all of the creatures that he has absorbed. He looks like them. So he is literally a monster. So when she comes back, she's like, what the fuck? She did not look scared enough. Because she looked at him and she kind of still knew that it was strange. And she was somewhat okay with it, but kind of like, no. And I'm like, no, she would have been freaking clean the fuck out. Like, what's going on? Where is light? And she was just like, oh, no, who are you? What's going on? This is freaky. And I'm like, that totally underacted. But he knew all that was going to happen and he did it anyway. And then immediately after, he looks to the black guy to save him. Nah, fuck you.
That's funny.
Anywho.
Like, oh yeah, it totally is like the mystical minority character.
Yup. White arrogant guy ruins the universe, looks to the black guy to fix it. Nope.
Yeah.
So yeah. Plus, I can't. Doctor Strange is the one movie in the MCU that's not true. There are 3 movies in the MCU I don't like. It's one of them. So I love the MCU. Like, I'm a total MCU fangirl, but there are 3 movies that I'm like, no. But at least one of the other 2, like with Age of Ultron, even though I don't like it, there's agency there. Things that happen in Age of Ultron have a lasting impact throughout the MCU. You could literally never watch Iron Man 3 and nothing changes. You have to watch Doctor Strange, but I don't like Doctor Strange. Not only do I not like the character of Doctor Strange, I don't like anything about the movie. Like, I didn't even like the movie.
Interesting.
The character Doctor Strange, I actually did like it in the There's an animated movie that I think was done better than the MCU movie. So the Watcher was straight up, that sounds more like your problem energy. I mean, that is the Watcher's energy. That's why he's called the Watcher. And I would be interested to see if the Watcher that Jeffrey Wright is playing, if that is Uatu or if he's a different one. Because he never says, at least I haven't heard him say his name. He just calls himself a Watcher.
Yeah.
So...
So, do you have any predictions as to how they might use evil Doctor Strange in the MCU?
Maybe he's the villain for What If that everybody has to unite against. Because, like, people, every time you watch a show about What If, they always bring up the trailer that I refuse to watch because I don't watch trailers. But people are like, here's the trailer. I'm like, you fuckers. And apparently there's a scene in the trailer where you have a bunch of alternate universe people come together, very much like the Avengers, to fight something. Some people think that they're fighting Loki. Maybe they're not fighting Loki. Maybe they're fighting evil Doctor Strange.
Very true. Yeah, so Lily, that's basically exactly what If is. So, for those who are just listening, I don't have Disney Plus. What If? Interesting concept, anthology series exploring alternate timelines in MCU, self-contained and non-incorporated into the master timelines. Right? Yes, that is correct.
Right and wrong. You were right on everything except for the self-contained and not incorporated into the master timelines, because What If will have an impact on the MCU eventually.
Yeah, like, I think a lot of these characters, like, I think that we might see, like, evil Doctor Strange and, like, there are people theorizing that evil Doctor Strange is going to be in, Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, a lot of people think that Doctor Strange is evil Doctor Strange. Well, we'll have to see what happens.
I don't know. In Spider-Man, I think we'll see him in Doctor Strange or the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, and
that's where I think most of this is going to come out.
Yeah, because I think that's where we're going to see, like, Captain Carter and other characters from What If in that movie. I have a strong feeling of it.
And Malik, to answer your question, no, I have not seen The Nevers on HBO.
No, I have not either. It's on my list of things to watch, but I haven't yet. All right, so very quickly, some memes from Matt.
The meme master.
The meme master, that's right. Alright, so first off, hey Christine, want to hear a joke? Yeah, creme brulee. I didn't get it. Exactly. Because she didn't get the creme brulee, yeah.
Yeah,
that's actually
when
good.
she gets ready to get into his car, which, like, before the accident that has to happen, she says, you promised me creme brulee, I want creme brulee, like, because they're going to an award ceremony, and she's like, I just came because there's going to be creme brulee. It's a joke, but she really did want creme brulee.
Yeah. So. But that's why it's funny, because she didn't get her creme brulee.
No, because she died.
She died, yeah. So that's actually a good one, Matt. Excellent job. No! Good evening, Dr. Strange. Are you having car trouble? Ancient one. Is that the meme of the... I'm not sure how to describe the meme. But, you know, the group of black guys, one of the guys has a hood up. And he's, like, all smug because he made a good joke. Everyone's like, oh!
It's like the X-Men, but steampunk. Okay, Malik?
This is a good one. So it's the girl with the fire. The Doctor Strange is the house on fire, and the Watcher is the little girl, just kind of like, yeah, that's what happened. Just watching. Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What if Terrence Howard threw the bag?
That's wrong. You're so wrong for that one.
I'm kind of confused.
Matt. Terrence Howard played...
Yeah.
Okay, so the what if is, what if he wasn't replaced by Don Cheadle?
Okay.
He played he played James Rhodes, aka Rhodey, in Iron Man, but did not come back for Iron Man 2 because racist ass Ike Perlmutter said, just hire a different black guy, they all look the same. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent memes as always, Matt. Good job. That was another segment of Matt's memes.
Like an actual segment. Matt's memes for this week. Lily Rice said she's going to watch Shang-Chi this weekend.
Good for you.
Or this week.
Good for you.
So I'm work weekends, so Monday is my weekend. So to me, like the beginning of your week, it's my weekend. So I love Mondays. Everybody else hates Mondays, and I'm like, yes, I'm finally off. So
is that when you go to the movies? Is right after the show?
No. So in order for me to go to the movies, there has to be nobody in it. So what I do, since there's a movie theater 4 minutes from my house, I wait until start time to see if anybody's like, because you can see if anybody bought tickets. I wait until start time, and if there's nobody in the theater, then I leave my house and I go to that one. Because I'm sick of like, oh, there's only one person. I can go there, and then you get there and there are 3 people, and I'm like, that's too many. I don't know. So then I leave. Do you know how many movies that I have? I don't pay for them because I have a movie pass, but like that I've used my movie pass to watch, only to discover there are like 10 people in there when I get there, and I just leave. And like I don't get a refund because I don't pay for anything, but like, and Jackie, the only person not at risk for Monday work week. That's true.
See, Shang-Chi is not on HBO. It's a Disney movie. Yes. But no, it is not going to be one of their exclusives. This is only in theaters.
Yes. I hope to see it, but again, it all banks on whether or not I can find a show that nobody is into. So I have a method to this, which is if it is an adult movie, see it first thing in the morning. If it's a kids movie, see the last show. Because odds are, like, and during the week only. So, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, go to either the first show or the last show. That's when I can see. And that, honestly, is why I figured that Black Widow wasn't doing well. Because I was not able to see Fast 9 in theaters. Because I couldn't catch a showing. Not one showing that didn't have at least 10 people in it. No matter, like, the whole time it was out, not one showing didn't have, like, 8 or 9 people already, seated. Meanwhile, I was able to watch Black Widow the Monday after it came out. And I was like, I was alone in this theater, completely by myself, wondering, like, okay, there's not a lot of interest in this movie. Because there's a Fast 9 going right now with 10 people in there, and there's nobody else in here watching Black Widow with me. So that's why
and
I was
like, a new movie.
It wasn't very popular.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen it because I also won't pay $20 for a movie that I could see without paying the $20 because I pay $24 a month for the movie pass. I pay more than that. I have 2 of them. Anywho, so yes, Terrence Howard was an excellent Air Force colonel, and I wish that he had been brought back. And it's not fair that he wasn't.
Agreed.
So yeah.
Yeah, he was good at Rudy. I don't like. I'm sad that he wasn't brought back.
Yep. And I feel like had he been in Civil War, it might have made me think of the situation different. Whereas the way I saw it, it was 100% Cap. No, like I was 100% Team Cap. Not only for the actual reasons going into it, but also because, like, so in the comics I was Team Cap, and then in Civil War, in like the MCU, I was Team Cap. In Civil War, there are scenes when Rhodey is trying to convince you, and when Don Cheadle's doing it, I'm like, no, you're a cop. And I'm like, just no. Like, I just completely dismiss it. But I have a feeling if it was Terrence Howard, I might have listened a little more. I'd still be Team Cap. But it might have made me look at the situation slightly different. Just saying.
Interesting.
But like, it's Don Cheadle, and I'm like, you're a cop. No. Like, I don't know. This is how I see him.
Also, really, I saw Suicide Squad with a raucous crowd of about 8 people in the back row. It was so fun to laugh and scream at them. I agree. I'm sure it is really exciting to be able to be in a theater with people again and really feel that community bond as you're watching a movie up on the screen. And I miss being in theaters. I really do. I haven't actually been to a movie since, I think, Rise of Skywalker, I think, was the last movie I saw in theaters.
Damn.
Because that was 2019. I almost, it was my birthday. I almost went to see Little Women instead. But my sister wouldn't see Little Women, so we went to see Rise of Skywalker. Which I was going to see anyway, but...
So the last movie before lockdown that I saw was Sonic.
Sonic?
Because, again, I have a movie pass, so I could go see anything. So I would see everything. So I would see the good stuff, and then when I saw the good stuff, I'd see, the other stuff. So I saw Sonic the Hedgehog, and it was actually not bad. It was pretty good.
I liked Sonic. Sonic was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
That came out in, like, February, I think.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and then right after that, COVID was getting, like, really bad, and I was like, I don't think it's safe to go to a theater. So that's when it was before lockdown. I stopped because I was like, I don't think it's safe. So, yeah, that's the last thing. But then the first movie that I saw, what was the first movie I saw after it came back? I think it was Cruella. And yeah, I think it was Cruella. And I saw it in the theater with 3 other people, but they were all wearing masks, and I stayed away from them. Like, I was on the opposite end of the theater, and everybody was wearing masks the whole time. So I was like, okay, 3 people, everybody wearing a mask, that's my limit. So, and the first time I tried to see Black Widow, there were 3 people, none of them wearing masks, and then more people walked in, and I just got up and walked out. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I walked out before the movie started. I walked out in the middle of trailers because I was like, this is too many people not wearing masks, I'm not doing it.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I haven't been to the theaters in what feels like forever because I was just saying no. It's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I refuse to go back until there's more going on. But anyway, with all that being said, let's go ahead and welcome our guests for this stream to talk about Snowpiercer. Please welcome Zach and Gavin from the Vanguard. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
Hello.
It's good to see you guys.
How's it going?
Pretty good. So, just to follow up on that question, what was the last movie you guys saw in theaters? Before and after the pandemic.
Yeah, so Gavin and I are degenerates, and we also are really, really fortunate. So we live really close to a small, locally owned movie theater run by a guy we really like. He's actually on the North Kansas City Council, super great guy, really involved in the community. And they have gone above and beyond to make their theaters safe and to stay in business during the movie theater. So I think the last movie Gavin and I saw was a reshowing of Blue Velvet like 4 days ago. But they literally block out parts of the theater. They socially distance everybody. Like, you have to wear your mask during the whole movie. Like, they will kick you out. So it's a really great theater. Shout out to the Screenland Armor, because if it wasn't for them, Gavin and I don't know where we would see movies.
Yeah, I think the last movie we saw together was Blue Velvet. Like Zach just said, for the 30th anniversary, they did a showing of that, which was super cool. But I actually just saw Dune by David Lynch, also that 1984 Dune, which was released again in anticipation of Denis Villeneuve's upcoming adaptation of Dune. So yeah, that was awesome. And yeah, it's definitely a little bit sketchy going back to the theater, but they do do a pretty good job of keeping everyone safe and sanitizing it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Gavin and I are terrified that they'll go out of business because it is our one good theater left, and they really are. They are like a small locally owned theater. Like you will see the guy that owns the movie theater behind the counter when you go. So it's like a legit local business, and we hate to see them go.
That's awesome. I appreciate you guys supporting small businesses. That's awesome.
For sure. I mean, it's
So,
everybody's preference
yeah.
pretty much, I think. Who wants to go to a corporate chain where everybody's being exploited, whereas if you can see a small business where people are actually having a good time. I mean, obviously, you can have no ethical consumption under capitalism and all that stuff, but it's massively better to be supporting local and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we don't really have that, any small businesses like that where I live. Like, basically one of our theaters is owned by AMC. It used to be like a Carmike Cinema at one point, but now it's AMC. The other one is owned by like B&B Theaters, and that was like the only one that was like the local theater in town.
Yeah, I almost
But-
refuse to see movies at AMC just because they're such a dog shit company. Gavin and I actually both worked there for minimum wage as one of our jobs. They paid us $7.25 an hour. But yeah, it was a terrible place to work for a myriad of reasons. But yeah, AMC is trash.
Yeah, and what part of that country are you guys in again?
I'm in Florida. Jackie's in California.
We're Midwesterners over here, so yeah, we're
Yeah.
holding it down in Kansas City.
Well, it's nice that you guys actually have local theaters. That's awesome. All right, so
Yeah, we
the
got
reason,
one local theater.
yeah,
Hey,
no, the
Holly.
reason, hey Holly, so Robin says, welcome to the show, Gavin and Zach. It's so good to have you guys here. It's such a pleasure. So the reason we're all here is to talk Snowpiercer. So first impressions first of the movie. How do you guys feel about Snowpiercer? Let's start with Gavin.
Oh, so I love Snowpiercer. I saw it back when it came out in 2013. 2013. I almost said 2019.
I think that'd be the show.
that was maybe what I was thinking of. Yeah, but I was actually working in a different movie theater when Snowpiercer came out, not AMC, but an actual local one that is since closed, so rest in peace. But yeah, I was working at the theater and I saw it at the time, and I was blown away by the movie because I'm not like a huge fan of action, science fiction kind of films. And at the time, I don't think I know who Bong Joon-ho was, or if I had, I had only seen The Host, which is also really good. He made that film in 2006, I think. But I was just blown away when I first saw Snowpiercer because it's just such a well-made movie. It has such an interesting, innovative premise, and it's not too complex. It keeps it simple. It has a very easily digestible story, but that's a good thing in this sense because it actually tells an impactful story with good characters. It's well structured, well edited, well paced, really well shot, and just a very interesting world to find yourself in as a film going experience, in my opinion. I love the mood of the movie, the atmosphere, and that's all completely disregarding the very potent social commentary. You can watch this movie and be completely non-political and just watch it as an action sci-fi movie and still have a great time. It's still entertaining. It's exciting. The action scenes are insanely good. It has a really interesting plot. Like I said, you don't even have to be thinking about the class dynamics in the film to enjoy it. And I think that's what really separates good films that have messages from bad films that have messages. When you just are constantly having the message forced down your throat at the expense of the actual film itself, then it's annoying because you're like, I don't care about this message. I want to be entertained. And so a movie like Snowpiercer is so good because it does both at once. It gives you a very clear, like I said, potent message, very class conscious message in this case. But the film is still incredibly entertaining, and you can just sit back and enjoy it too. So when the two things marry together, that's when you get a really potent piece of social commentary when it comes to fiction, in my opinion. And I think that's what Bong Joon-ho has done masterfully, not just with Snowpiercer, but also Okja and Parasite, and pretty much all of his films. So yeah, I think this is a great movie, and it's also good for an American audience because it's in English and it stars Chris Evans. So some familiar faces for the more westernized audience that might be a little bit more scared of foreign movies.
Yes, go ahead, Zach.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I agree with a lot of the points that Gavin made. I think that this is like you said, it's a good kind of way to get American audiences' feet wet with a lot of global concepts, right? One of the things that I think is important about Bong Joon-ho's success and a few select other international filmmakers that have really been able to get a mainstream audience in America is they bring such a global perspective, right? The film Snowpiercer, it's considering the world as all of us, right? So many times, like the world is America to American film directors, right? Like there's not much happening outside of our borders. Whereas Bong Joon-ho, I think, is really specific and intentional and showing like, no, this is all of our globe, right? Obviously, the ecological destruction that we're all living through right now is a subplot of the film. It's freezing cold outside. You can't go outside. That's why everybody's on the train. I imagine everybody that's listening has seen the film, since that's what we're talking about, while trying to avoid spoilers if you haven't. Either way, he's looking at all of the structures of society as if it's like a global caste system, which is obviously another subplot point. But it's also really difficult, usually as a filmmaker, to make a film that's stuck in one place like that. So everybody in the entire film is on one set, which is a moving train. A lot of times it's hard to move the plot. Things can get stagnated. You'll find a lot of scenes that seem like out of place, or it's easy to get kind of bored or unfocused, where the idea that he keeps everybody moving from one car to another, I think paces the film really well. So that's just one other point that I think I'll throw out there. It's good for American audiences, again, like Gavin said, because it's so gripping and so in your face over and over and over again. You're not going to doze off. And I feel like with films, especially foreign films, people are intimidated by them because they're worried about getting bored, and they don't want to feel guilty that it's like, oh, this went over my head, or I didn't get the message, or I was, wanting to take a nap the whole time I was in the movie. You're absolutely not going to experience that with this film. So I think that's a...
All right, Jackie, you. How did you feel when you first watched Snowpiercer?
Well, first, I want to address Quaker's comment real quick. Listening to young leftists talk movies, and I never know anything anybody is talking about. I understand like 15%, but love Community so much I just listen. Well,
I appreciate that, Quaker.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, we love having you here.
To catch you up, Quaker, Snowpiercer it's a movie that was directed by a Korean director named somebody that I can't pronounce right now.
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho. He is a pretty famous director in Korea, and he's starting to become a famous director in the U.S. And like the guys were just talking about, even though he's a Korean filmmaker, this is a film that was done in English using American stars. Essentially, it's like his foray into like American cinema. The movie is about, so basically climate change has taken out, climate change has gotten so bad that people are afraid that we're becoming extinct, in the process of becoming extinct. So in order to combat that, because of global warming having been so bad, they decided to kind of pull a move like in The Matrix, where they fly a bunch of planes over and release chemicals into the air to make the climate cool down. Of course, this has the opposite effect, and instead of everything being too hot, now it's gone the exact opposite, and everything is too cold, and the entire world has frozen over, and the only inhabitants left, including the animals, all of life has died, except for the people and animals that are on this train. And the train is called Snowpiercer. That's what the movie is about. And then when you watch the movie, it's essentially a look, and it's an exploration of class, because the people who are considered nobodies are at the back of the train, and at the front of the train are the wealthy, and the people in the middle are middle class. And you see the depravity that people are willing to do to each other to stay in their classes. Because the people in the middle are comfortable being in the middle and don't want to be in the back. And the people in the front are comfortable in the front and don't want to be in the middle, because that's just a little too uncomfortable. And they don't even want to think of the people in the back, and they don't even really think the people in the back, they don't think of them as people. And so it shows like, even though the world is ending, the class struggle continues on this one train. The whole world had to get together, but they decided to keep essentially the caste system That's what the movie is about.
Yeah, so I will confess, I hadn't seen the movie until last night. It was my very first time. It is on Netflix, so if you haven't watched it, you can go watch it on Netflix. But I definitely had a lot of the same reactions that y'all did. I was just like, wow, this is an exceptional way of viewing not only class, but also how we consider climate change. So the fact that they were stupid enough to think, of course this is how they decided to do it. To shoot rockets up into the air, put more chemicals into our atmosphere. It's like, oh, good, the Earth is finally cooling down. And then it cooled down way too much. It's like, of course this is how things would end up when governments decide that they're going to shoot rockets into the air and put
they've already
further chemicals
talked
into
about
our...
shooting sulfur into the air for
Right?
legitimate. The American government's talked about that, so yeah, it's not that far off, unfortunately.
Exactly. It's like, okay, so you want to go this near Snowpiercer route? Great. This'll go fantastically. We all know this is gonna just go swimmingly. Absolutely. But then all the conversations that happened, like on the train, like learning about what life was like for those who were in the tail section, like that speech from Tilda Swinton, where she's talking about, you are, like, I am a hat, I belong on the head. You are a shoe, you do not put a shoe on your head. You put the shoe on the foot. And you are all feet. You are all shoes, you belong on the feet. You belong on the bottom. And so it is. And just this conversation of like hegemony and how it's the dominant way of thinking, like, oh, that's just the way it is. Like, there's no changing it. This is just, this is a way of life. This is a matter of fact. And we have these people in the tails section who are just like, no, this is not a matter of fact. We are in this position because you are keeping us in this position, and we're going to fight back and take our place where we belong, and that means taking over the engine. And I thought that it was so impactful that in order to basically, we talk about, revolution all the time, not because we saw it even from, Chris Evans' character's perspective when he finally gets to the front of the train. It's like, yeah, you're at the top now, you're at the front, but you're still on a train. You're still in the same system. And so the only way to overthrow the system is to demolish the train. And so I thought that was such an impactful way of really showing, the fact that you can rise up the ranks to such an extreme, but the system doesn't change. And we're all still in the same system, and the only way that we can really get rid of the system is to completely dismantle it. And so I thought that was a really interesting point of view.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that the whole film is just such a good metaphor for class structures. And honestly, Bong Joon-ho is just one of the most class-conscious filmmakers that's currently working today, at least at his echelon of prowess. And I think that his film Parasite from, I believe, 2 years ago, and won the Academy Award that year, is an even better meditation on class. I think as much as I love Snowpiercer, it's so goddamn unsubtle. Like, it's just so obvious what they're talking about, what the metaphor is for, that, it's impossible to even miss it. Like, it really is that unsubtle, which is good on one hand, but it's also, like I said, just like you were saying, that Tilda Swinton speech, like, it's so obvious what the movie's about within like the first 10 minutes. So, I think it actually brings to mind a quote from Bong Joon-ho about Parasite. He said that I tried to express a sentiment specific to Korean culture, but all the responses from different audiences were pretty much the same. Essentially, we all live in the same country called capitalism. And again, I think that just speaks to how much his films have resonated with an international audience, and even specifically here in America, despite the fact that he's not necessarily just making his movies for an American audience. They resonate so much here and all around the world because, as long as we are in capitalist systems, capitalist countries, there's always going to be this kind of caste structure, no matter how much mitigation is in place with welfare programs and the like. It always is going to end up with some people at the front of the train, drinking champagne, and the rest of us at the back eating bugs.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that maybe one of the reasons why his commentary is a little less subtle in this film is it was his first foray into, I believe, making films for American audiences, and I would imagine that he probably just assumed that it would fly over everybody's fucking head unless it was just so fucking piled on it. I think that he may have been pleasantly surprised with the response to Parasite, though I can't say that for sure.
No, I think that's right, because I think that's accurate to say that if you're living in the United States, like, unless you are very conscious of a lot of the different themes that happen in film, a mainstream audience, I feel like they get it, but a lot of those things will maybe go over their head. Like, they'll kind of get it, like, they'll be like, okay, yeah, this is about class, but like, the themes will go over their head. Like, that's an accurate portrayal.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm not criticizing the film. It's just personally, it's like almost as soon as, and I was just rewatching it. So this was like, maybe the first time I saw it, I didn't feel as much this way. But it's almost like you just immediately know what the whole movie's about. And again, that's not a criticism. I fucking love this film and Bong Joon-ho. It's just extremely, extremely unsubtle.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's...
Sorry, Zach, real quick. So someone is saying that Jackson Hinkle is getting arrested at the Capitol right now. So just... shout out to Jackson. Hope you're safe.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to think of that positively or negatively.
It looks like there's a protest on the Capitol steps.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I think there's some
Occupy Congress is going on right now. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that what's the most successful thing about this film is the fact that it kind of considers a lot of the potentiality for what we're going through in our current political system, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for change inside the system, but without actually addressing the structure of what's going on. And I think one of the smartest things that the film does is it actually makes the commentary on how the elites, the people in the front of the train, they actually do want to foment at least a little bit of hope in the other lower classes. That's why they hide those little messages in the protein bars or whatever. It's like a way of keeping people going. It's a way of kind of keeping people running that race and, in their place or whatever, everything at an even heel, in order, as you said, shoes on the feet, hats on the head. And I think that in our modern political situation, we're constantly having that debate, right? Oh, should we wait for another note? Should we wait for more instruction from the people who are still above us in this train car? Or should we say, fuck this, we know where we're at in the train car and we're trying to get forward? And I think it does a good job of saying, okay, you can do that, you can buck everything and get to the front of the train, but where are you? You're still on the train. So, it's more of a Rubik's Cube than it is just a fucking straight shot to dismantling power. And I think that Bong Joon-ho does a good job of articulating that through the film.
I think the lesson is still good because at the very end, they do dismantle the train. And when they get off the train, they see that life has come back. Even though everything is frozen, there's a polar bear. Because remember in the beginning, they said all life, including animals. And now there's a polar bear. Maybe it'll eat them, but at least life is starting to return.
Yeah.
So there's hope. Like, you can dismantle it and live outside of the system.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the big thing that we saw from, I think it was like Manjun or something, the Asian character, he was even saying, like, I've been looking at this window for like 10 years, like for a very short time. Like, I saw like just a piece of the plane. Now I'm seeing more of the plane. Now, like, I could only see like the tail fin before. Now I'm seeing like the wing, and I'm seeing the body of the plane. It's like, okay, so we know that the ice is melting. Like, it's still cold enough that it can freeze a guy's arm off in 7 seconds. But we know that, at least in parts of the world, like, the ice is melting. There is now hope that we can, in fact, live outside the train and start building a new society. And I think that that's really fascinating. But also, I thought it was the way that Zach kind of talked about it, in that, should we be waiting for those messages, those red letters from the front of the train? Like, should we be waiting for it, or should we just go? And that they were waiting for these messages, like, and we find out later that all these messages were in fact coming from Wilford himself, and it was all to foment these risings in order to basically perform population control. like, you know what, you're gonna rise up. Okay, we're gonna kill 74% of you, but we'll leave 18% just to celebrate the fact, or we'll let 18 extra people live just because, you know, it's our 18th anniversary. Congratulations, aren't we so merciful? And that we knew from whenever they got on the train, like, this whole story from Chris Evans' character, Curtis, about how that first month that they were on the train, they were literally eating each other because they were starving. And that really gets to the fact that we are forced to eat each other all the time. We are always pitted against one another, like, oh, you know what, this is happening, well, guess whose fault it is? It's either white people, or it's, you know, immigrants, it's black people. We're constantly being pitted against each other. And, like, maybe there's like one or two exceptional people, like either they're children who are small enough to be slaves and work on the engine, or maybe they had the fortune of being a violin player. But, you know, your wife, we're going to crush her hands that way she can't play violin anymore, and we'll take you up front. You're the exception. Because this is a meritocracy. This is like the most disgusting version of a meritocracy you could ever see, because this one guy who can play the violin, because he's exceptional, we're going to take him out of the tail section, and he's going to at least have some kind of ability to do better for himself, but he has to leave everything else that he has behind. So I thought that, and the fact that even after they were all eating each other, the way that they survived after that was because they got protein bars that were made out of bugs. It's like, so literally they were being fed insects as protein rather than being given actual food. And I feel like the dehumanization of the people of the tail section, you know, we feel that so often in the real world. Like, yeah, we're basically being fed shit constantly.
I mean, yeah, it even goes back to some of the stuff that people were talking about at the early stages of COVID, when they were blaming a lot of individuals and being like, oh, these people were eating bats. And it's like, oh, these, you know, I forget the term for meat that's like actually not meat that's good enough to eat, but bats are on that list. And, you know, that's already happening in the parts of the world, right? We're saving all of the cattle meat and all of the, high quality protein for the richest countries in the world, the hyper capitalized countries, whereas the global south is left to live off of, you know, whatever's left, kind of like the back of the train. So yeah, I just think it's a really potent analogy for the way that our world is as it currently exists. You know, it's easy to think of this film as like a hyper dystopian film, but I think it works just as potently as understanding it's like, no, we're already on that train, right? We're already setting our earth on fire. We're already living in this extremely unjust way. And we actually find ourselves as Americans in the middle of the train, mostly asleep, right? That's in the global perspective. That's where we are. We're the ones that are hyper medicated. We're the ones that are able to amuse ourselves to death. We're the ones that are able to, you know, forget all about this and kind of, you know, trip till, you know, the end of time. Whereas it's the global south really that is, eating they're the back of the train, right? And so I think that if anything, this gives us perspective as people who are in the middle of the train. I can't remember the character's name, but he's the guy that unlocks all the doors with his daughter. We're in the position to unlock those doors and help people move to the front of the train. So I think that's the most powerful message of the film for us. And I think that's maybe why Bong Joon-ho was making this message for Americans, because we do hold a unique amount of financial power, but as well as media power in this country, where we can make a splash globally and perhaps make some real changes that last as a country with a extremely robust military, but also extremely robust financial sector and media.
Yeah, definitely.
Hi, Bess. I love how she's like, I've never seen Snowpiercer, but I feel like I've lived it. You are living it.
You are living Snowpiercer. Yeah, we are all on this train.
I was wondering
in this train.
I was wondering if either of you guys, Meg or Jackie, have you seen the film Okja by Bong Joon-ho?
No, I haven't had the opportunity. No,
I would highly
that one's
recommend.
also on Netflix, right?
It is on Netflix. I think it was actually a Netflix original, and it also has a mix of American and international actors in it. But it's definitely more accessible to an American audience, I think, than some of his other movies. And I think it's also a fantastic piece, not just about the class struggle, but also just capitalism in general, and about animal rights and factory farming. It's a fantastic movie that I would highly recommend everyone check out. I think in some ways it operates in a similar space as Snowpiercer, but it's it plays with some of the same themes, but it has a lot other ideas going on too, and it's a lot. It takes place in different parts of the world too. So yeah, I really love that movie as well. But yeah, I just think that all of Bong Joon-ho cinemas just above and beyond most directors working right now as far as addressing class themes and talking about capitalism, in a very frank way, which is pretty rare for mainstream cinema.
Yeah, and I think one of the few ways that, and we talked about this actually on one of our streams the other day, of the importance of government funding art. A lot of times these filmmakers that are operating in countries like Korea, France, Hong Kong, wherever, these cinema hubs in other parts of the world are located, you'll get a lot of funding from the government actually to make your film, so you can apply for grants and that kind of thing. And so it allows you to be a little more critical of things that you might not get away with in the studio system, where you have a bunch of crotchety Republicans that are holding the levers of power. You can apply for a grant with a loose story, get the grant money, and then you don't have any oversight over your head. You can make the film that you actually want, and that's why a lot of times it's difficult to make really radically revolutionary films in America, because unless you're Oliver Stone, you really aren't going to get the bankroll for it. But yeah, I agree with Gavin's sentiment. I don't think that there's another filmmaker working right now that's able to successfully and commercially grapple with class issues at the scale that Bong Joon-ho is.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. So, what did you guys think about Chris Evans' character Curtis? That he was really kind of chosen to become the new Wilford, and what that represents in the film.
I mean, yeah, I think it's just kind of the way you grow up through the levers of power, the same way that we see in Congress all the time. People go in with big bright eyes and big ambitions, and then they get bought by the machine. And I think that's kind of what they were hoping to represent with Chris Evans' character.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good reading, just how, working class people can be co-opted, or at least attempted to be co-opted by the establishment. And, a lot of times we see people with good intentions rise through the ranks of society and then abandon their previous good intentions. So, regardless of that ended up applying to Chris Evans' character or not, I think that was kind of the point being made.
He's AOC. He's the squad. He starts from the back.
Yeah.
He makes big promises to the people in the back that when he gets to the front, he's going to change things. And then when he gets there, the difference is he actually does contribute to the dismantling of the train, unlike actual AOC.
No, I think that's actually a really good analogy because that's so true. Is that you can even see in his eyes, like, should I be doing this? Like, should I be the one who is taking over this train? Like, you can see him kind of percolating and, like, kind of looking at the engine and, like, should I be doing this? But as soon as he sees, Timmy down underneath the floor, working on the engine, and he sees, like, oh, this is... And I think that was very much a consciousness-raising moment for him, was, seeing Timmy down there. It's like, oh, wait, no, like, all of this is still built on our labor. Like, we have children being taken out of the tail section, and because they are just small enough to fit underneath this floor, he can work on this engine, and he's the only thing keeping this engine alive. It's like, okay, no, everything that is... Like, I can't be in charge of making sure that kids out of the tail section are coming up here and keeping this thing going. No, this thing has to die once and for all. And, the fact that he risked, his sacrifice... He spent the entire movie talking about how he had 2 good limbs because he hadn't sacrificed anything. And then, at that last moment, to sacrifice his arm in order to save Timmy. And that is Timmy who's able to go off on the train with Yona at the end and be able to basically become the next Adam and Eve. I thought that was a really strong point, and that he, basically sacrificed his life at the very end with I still can't remember his name. I think it's like Monjun or something like that. But that they both sacrificed their lives in order to save these 2 kids. I thought that was a really beautiful moment, that, like, he hadn't sacrificed anything throughout his life. He was even the guy with the knife who almost killed Edgar. He wasn't willing to sacrifice himself, but he was able to make that sacrifice at the very end. If it meant dismantling the train.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I agree, it was definitely powerful. part of the film. And, you know, I think another good line from earlier in the movie is when he says that all the previous revolutions have failed because they've, you know, they haven't succeeded in getting to the front of the train. They haven't succeeded in actually dismantling the system. And obviously that applies, you know, here and around the world too, wherever people are under systems of oppression, essentially, I think. I did want to briefly address someone in the chat. Lily was asking about the name of the movie that I mentioned earlier. It's Okja, O-K-J-A. So just wanted to let you know what that was.
Pretty sure it's still on Netflix.
Yeah. All right, I just texted it into the chat. You should see it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's ultimately the Adam and Eve figures at the end represent like the need to continue, right? Like we're, you know, yes, the world is fucked. Yes, we're in a bad state. Yes, we're all hurling on a train through oblivion. But, you know, we all have this, you know, necessity, this human condition that forces us to soldier on, to have hope and to keep fighting. And I think that that's ultimately his message at the end in that representation, is that he's telling us, you know, hey, you know, this is a natural human hope. This is a natural, you know, continuation for humanity. This is how we have to go. And for, you know, other people to succeed, other people have to, you know, make sacrifices, and, you know, other people have to, you know, lay down so that other people can, you know, make their way. And I think that that's, you know, kind of what he's getting at.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like, especially the fact that, as I said, like, you could see him percolating, like, should I just take over the train and be the person in charge? But then again, like, seeing, like, what that actually meant, and, like, continuing, you know, basically perpetuating that same system in order to keep the train going, and the fact that he wasn't willing to do that, I thought that was really a strong moment for him. So, okay, so I see a lot of people talking about, what's going on at the Capitol right now. Guys, okay, if we have time at the end, we'll cover it for a little bit. But at the very end. Because we just gotta stay focused here. Like, for one time, the one time that Jackie and I are actually focused on something. The one time we're actually focused on something, and you guys want us to talk about something else.
Yeah, guys, look, things happen in real life constantly. We can't change our show based on what's going on in real time, because this is not a real time show. Nick's show is perfect for that. Nick would have stopped everything and done. We're not that's not what this show is. This show is discussing Snowpiercer right now. We are discussing the politics in movies and media in general. So we get it if you guys want to go watch that, but we're going to keep talking about Snowpiercer because that's what this show is about.
Yeah, and if we want to talk about, we'll talk about it in relation to what's going on, because we're talking about rebellion here. The entire point of this movie is that they're trying to rebel against the 1% and get to the front of the train. So we can easily make, you know, a parallel here. Like, we see people getting arrested. Like, we see that in the film too. Like, whenever they are just about to get to the water section of the train, like, they have this basically huge mass of basically police who have like axes and shit, who are literally, their faces are covered entirely except for their mouth. So they are basically faceless beings. Which I think that was an interesting parallel for how he sees the police as, you know, a mass of faceless beings who are just there to protect the 1%. I thought that was
you mean
protecting.
The police? Yeah. They do in real life too.
Yeah.
Like when they go out, like when they're in protest and the police are sent in, they will either not wear or they will cover their names so that they can't be held accountable later. They do that they do it to themselves, and it's not to make them seem more scary. It's literally to protect their identities, so that the few rights that you do have to be able to, like, say something or sue them later, you can't, because you don't know who it was. So it's a protection for the police, while the police protect the capital, which is like, or protect just the things for the billionaires. I also saw today that in Louisiana, Whole Foods has police making it so that people can't get food that Whole Foods needs to throw out. So all over again, they're doing this. As a pandemic, there was a horrible hurricane, and the response from the richest man in the world is, you can't have even what I was going to throw away.
Yeah.
So again, that
Eat
is
bugs.
like, it's not just the movie, it's real life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. They'd rather feed us bugs than their scraps.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you're saying about the police, too, is so relevant right now, especially as the eviction moratorium has been lifted. And basically the cops are just, acting like the personal assistants of the landlords, enforcing their edicts on the, or helpless tenants, evicting them, actually committing the acts of violence that they should be protecting people against. They're the ones, committing those acts of violence, which of course is making people homeless and kicking them out on behalf of landlords and, all of the rapacious capitalist class enforcing whatever they want on the rest of us. So yeah, I think that's absolutely accurate, and a great illustration of that is in this film, like you mentioned, Meg.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the police protect their own, right? They're all just one faceless, nameless body, right? They're never gonna, unless you get in real pickle like Derek Chauvin, so they tried to make an example out of him, so they couldn't so they didn't have to fucking change anything about their corrupt, horrible system. They all just kind of merge into that like faceless kind of figure that gain control of society on behalf of the opulent. And I think that it's very clear here what he was trying to portray them as, which was these violent, vicious thugs that were only there to be the foot soldiers of the well-financed, in this case, the front of the train.
Yeah, excellent point from Garrett here. You're free to collect the cockroaches on their way to the dumpster to eat Whole Foods garbage. Good point.
His response to everything, the fact that he made billions during the pandemic while he still wouldn't even let people at Amazon warehouses have a piss break, the fact that he is protecting food that is getting thrown away, he needs to be first on the chopping block when we bring out the pitchforks. And we need to bring out the pitchforks. Like, he could end hunger. I don't think people realize this. He, as a billionaire, could literally end hunger in the United States and would still be a billionaire. That's how much money he has. And instead, he's protecting trash.
Yeah. So, Mark says, Snowpiercer, great film, but you guys are wasting time talking about a fictional story. The whole point of this, Monarch, is that it's related to what we're experiencing in real life. That's what this show is about. Yes, we're talking about fiction, but it's very much related to the reality that we're living in. Like, the fact that Jeff Bezos is not letting us, it's not giving food that he's going to throw away anyway to poor people. He'd rather us eat bugs. Protein blocks made out of bugs. He'd much rather that reality than just feeding us whatever would be left over that he was going to throw away anyway. That whenever we're rebelling, we have faceless police who are willing to just beat us all down and murder us all in order to protect capital. So while you may think this is all bullshit that we're talking about, we are talking about reality, even though we're talking about a movie.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally accurate. And also I think that there's something to be said for art as a vehicle to affect change. I mean, I think that wherever you look throughout history, you see art, especially music, and more recently, of course, film, fairly new art form compared to a lot of the other ones. But, especially music and especially visual arts of all sorts have been used to advance the agenda of revolutionary change all around the world. So I think it's ridiculous to say that, ignoring art, ignoring creative expression in favor of just focusing on the real world, quote unquote, is, I totally disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, I'm going to say something really quick because it's starting to piss me off. Hey, guys, we get it. Real world things are happening right now. There are protests happening on the Capitol. People are talking about that. Once again, that is not what this show is about. If you want to watch that, go watch that. No problem. You can come back and watch this later. This show, even though it's on the FHL network, is about media, okay? That's why it's called Nerdolitics, nerd culture plus politics. It is not exclusively politics. So if you want to watch that, go watch that. But don't keep spamming the comments about that. Okay? We are talking about Snowpiercer. So, if you want to continue to watch this, then watch this. If you want to watch that, go watch that. And you know what? Yes, Afeni does talk about those things. Feel free to watch her. There are 11 different people that are a part of Fred Hampton Leftist. There are so many different shows because people have multiple shows. You could watch any of the shows on FHL. This particular show is about nerd culture and politics. That's what we're discussing. If you don't like the nerd culture aspect, watch a different show. Nick will talk about this tomorrow. I'm sure Compton J will talk about it. You can watch Roundtable where we talk about everything.
About it on Roundtable. Yeah.
But that's not this show. This show is talking about Snowpiercer today. So if you don't want to watch Snowpiercer, you don't want to talk about Snowpiercer, or you think this is stupid, feel free to watch something else for right now. Also, our guests are the Vanguard. We're not talking about MPP. We're not talking about anything else. So if you have a problem with that, again, feel free to watch something else. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be here, you're going to respect our guests, and you're going to respect the topics.
Yeah, I apologize. We tend to bring a gulag of commenters with us wherever we go on the internet, but that's okay. I was wondering what's our stop time on the Snowpiercer conversation, just so I can let my girlfriend know.
We've
got like 18 more minutes.
18 more minutes. No problem. I was just curious.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and Kate, it's not that we are not interested in the fact that activists are being arrested. We are very interested in that, 100%. And as I said, if we get done talking about this early, then we'll address a little bit of that. Because we do care. Like, these are our friends. These are people that we do care about getting arrested. So that's not the point. It's that we're just trying to stay focused. That's the whole thing. Because for once, Jackie and I are focused.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I just wanted to say too that we'll probably, cover the Capitol Hill protests on our show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Obviously, we stand in solidarity with everyone that's participating in that, and if people have been arrested, then props to them for taking a stand against the establishment. Even people that we have beef with, who gives a shit? Obviously, that all gets put aside in the face of the actual struggle. So 100% we stand in solidarity with those people. But yeah, this is obviously the whole point of your guys' show is to talk about pop culture and politics through the lens of media. So yeah, of course, that goes without saying.
Yeah, one other thing I did want to give a quick shout out to, and I hope that not to take this too far away, but another great class conscious film that I'd been thinking about a lot was The Platform. So just a shout out to everybody else that's also on Netflix, and it also kind of does a great job of kind of marrying these ideas. I'm not sure if either of you guys have seen this film. It's basically it's called The Platform. And it basically it structures it's like almost like a suspense kind of horror film. I guess a thriller would probably be the better way of describing it. But it basically structures everybody's on a different platform on a hierarchy, kind of vertically. And you wake up on a different platform. You might be on the first floor where people are feasting. You might be on the bottom floor where people are starving. Everybody changes levels. And I think that our world is producing more of this kind of content. And also I think it should be pointed out that most of these class conscious works are coming from international directors. Mm-hmm. Again, the constraints on filmmaking in America and the capitalist constraints are so tight that having any kind of artistic expression that's even remotely critical of things like the U.S. military, structural capitalism, imperialism, etc., they're not going to get bankrolled in Hollywood. So we're fortunate to have directors from abroad that are making these points. But I think that the world is getting so divided based on class, right? Ever more so than after the pandemic, right? The global South is as poor as it's been, and the global North is as rich as it's been. I think we really need to understand that it's our role as Americans to, recognize that we're already on this, kind of top floor, and start fomenting just like we are seeing right now in the Capitol, like people are talking about. Like we need to get the fucking move on, because the rest of the world is already hurting. They're already and we're holding so many of the cards up here. If we change the way that things are done in America, so much can change elsewhere. And before we do, it's very difficult. So, it's like you don't see the children leading the revolution in the film Snowpiercer, right? Even though they're the ones controlling the engine, it's like, oh, why don't they just stop working? It's like, okay, well, the constraints and the power and all of these things, not that people in the global South are children, this is a clumsy analogy, but you know what I'm saying, right? That the power structures of who is able to revolt are different than who is the most exploited, because typically the people who are the most exploited are unable to, free themselves of their own, metaphorical positions, I guess. But yeah, anyway, I'm on a hill.
No, I actually totally agree with that, and I just totally second the recommendation of The Platform. It's a very similar film and theme, and also just in the fact that it visualizes the class structure, the class struggle, into a very literal sense, where as Snowpiercer is a more horizontal visualization via the train, The Platform is a vertical visualization of the class struggle, which, like Zach said, the people at the very top eat all the food, and then this platform goes down to the very bottom. By the time it gets there, there's essentially nothing left on the platform but bones and scraps and dirt and trash for the lower classes to eat. So it's actually a very similar film structurally, and in my opinion, maybe even slightly better. But yeah, totally highly recommended if you guys like Snowpiercer. The Platform is a must-watch.
The Platform and Okja are both movies that are in my Netflix queue of movies that I might one day get around to eventually, because
they're both really entertaining. They're both really entertaining. You won't regret it.
How I watch Netflix is I go on and I check to see what they have, and then I add like 19 movies to my watch queue, and then I get off of Netflix. Or I just will go on Netflix and completely ignore my watch queue and watch the first thing that looks interesting. And that's how Netflix is. And there are movies that I'm just like The Platform. I completely forgot about it. But then when you describe it, I'm like, oh yeah, I was going to watch that. And it's in my list.
It's a crisp 92, so you'll be able to get through it in about the time of a long TV show. And it's really good. Really good watch for anybody that's in the audience.
It's not about the amount of time. Because like the other day, I watched a 6-hour series that I thought was going to be a movie. I thought it was like a 2-hour movie, not realizing, because like who reads the season 1? I just saw I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, I thought this was a movie, right?
What series?
Clickbait. And it turns out it's a 6-hour, it's just under 6 hours, but it's like just under 6 hours. It's a 6-episode series, and I just sat there and binged the whole thing because it literally is clickbait. Because like at the end of the episode, you're like, well, fuck, what happens now? And so we just keep going. And
was
then
it good?
You're like, oh, okay.
Was it worth watching?
Yeah, but it's different for you because you know what you're getting into, because I just told you it's a series and it's like 6 hours long. I thought I was watching like a 2-hour movie, and like 6 hours later I was like, huh. So a little different, but
interesting.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Awesome. But there are stupid things that happen in it, but it's still like I watched the whole thing. But then again, like it's very clickbaity because like the end of an episode, it's one of those things that's like through the episode, it will present you with facts in a way that will make you ask a question. And now you have to watch the next episode to answer that question. And then the next episode will ask 2 more questions. So you just keep on this series because you're like, well, what's the fucking end of it? Would I need all the questions answered? And you could figure it out because like the breadcrumbs are there, but they're really good at disguising things because it's a murder mystery. So you're like kind of like, okay, I think it was this person, but then an episode will go really hard into like, was it or was it this person? And you're like, okay, I have to watch the next episode because I'm not sure. So that's how you end up watching 6 hours. So it's not about the time.
Yeah, that is very clickbaity.
It's extremely clickbaity. Clickbait is really clickbaity.
Did it have a class conscious message?
No, it was more an emotional message. Yeah, it does have a message, but I don't want to spoil it because if I spoil it, then if I tell the message, then you'll know who it was.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So yeah. There is a message, but it's not a class conscious one.
Interesting. Well, yeah, just going back to Snowpiercer for a second, I just think it's a fantastic movie, and even though we were just talking about kind of debating with the chat or whatever about the merits of discussing art in relation to politics and revolution and all that stuff, I actually think the more I think about it, it's extremely important that we talk about this stuff, because like what better way to reach a mainstream audience of people that may not already be invested in the class struggle, that maybe obviously everyone is aware of it in America, especially if you're a working class person, but a lot of people just accept it, and sometimes it takes seeing a really powerful piece of art, a really powerful statement about revolution and about rising up against the oppressive capitalist class. Sometimes it takes that and the discussions surrounding it for it to really snap into place, what they need to do, how they should talk to their fellow comrades about this kind of stuff, and how we can all resist together as a community in solidarity with one another. So I just think it's really important to talk about this kind of stuff, and I think it's a great vehicle for discussing these really heavy issues. Again, especially with people that, you know, may have just stumbled into the movie theater to see this film thinking it was a action movie starring Captain America or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
That's actually why I didn't watch the movie at first when it first came out. I also was working at the movie theater when this came out. I was just schlubbing at AMC when I was in high school, and I was like, oh, what's this movie? You know, and Chris Evans, probably not for me. I don't really fuck with this guy. I'm not, you know, whatever. But then it was a couple years later where I saw it, and I was like, holy shit, you know, this is really awesome. And I think that, you know, again, as Gavin said, we're very much everybody, you know, FHL, Vanguard, we're super plugged into, you know, the struggle, the cause. What's happening in politics. Everyday people oftentimes are just really fucking busy. They're good people. Their heart's in the right place. Should people have healthcare? Yeah. Should people be in jail? No. Like, for drugs, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, they get it, but they're just fucking tired, man. They're just fucking, their back is sore and they're fucking hungry, and you know, they just want to go home and drink a beer or something, right? Like, you know, that's the world we live in, and I mean, people have hard fucking lives. Like, they're tired, you know? And one of the things that people like to do when they're tired is sit back and watch a movie. And it creates the perfect way to have these conversations where it doesn't repel people from us. Like, the left has super popular ideas and very unpopular people. Like, it's just a fact of life, unfortunately. And usually that's because the only representation that the left gets is, like, you know, the squad, right? But those people are very unpopular with people who aren't already plugged into politics a lot of the time. And so this gives us a good time to be like, hey, you know, we're not just unfun, serious people who want to lecture you and finger wag. Like, we like watching movies. Here, let's talk about this movie and get people riled up, you know, because people always get fed patriotic propaganda in film. And, you know, if there aren't leftists here to be like, hey, let's talk about these other fucking, you know, few movies with our ideas, I mean, we're just going to get beat out, right? We're just going to get, you know, people are overexposed to, you know, pro-American propaganda. If we don't get our 2 cents in, that's like all they know. That's all they, you know, have access to. So yeah, I just think that it's a great way to, you know, meet people where they are and, you know, not give them homework, right? It's like, okay, you might not want to go home and read Thomas Sankara, you know, and how he revolutionized Burkina Faso, but we could talk about this movie and then I'll draw a parallel to that and I'll tell you about it for like 5 minutes and you're gonna be like, wow, that motherfucker did that. And like, yes, and then the United States made sure he got fucking killed. But anyway.
No, 100%. I think that's one of the great reasons why we should be looking at people like Bong Joon-ho, who do speak to us from a more internationalist perspective. Because, as you said, so many movies are so U.S.-centric. Like, we had an entire episode in which we talked about, like, how U.S.-centric, like, disaster movies are. Like, okay, how are we not talking about, like, how this storm or whatever, or, like, The Day After Tomorrow, how are we not talking about how that's affecting, you know, or Africa or South America? Like, how are we only talking about what's happening in the United States when this is a global disaster that's happening? And I think that's one of the reasons that I really did appreciate this movie, is because it was from a globalist perspective. And also the fact that, as we were saying, like, Jackie and I were talking about earlier at the very beginning of the show, that this is Labor Day. A day that we're supposed to be celebrating everything that the labor movement has done for us. And on this same day, Biden has decided that we are no longer going to have the extension on unemployment. So we are literally about to start eating each other. So that's why we need to be talking about these different types of films and these different types of perspectives. Because, as someone said in the chat earlier, I don't remember exactly who said it, but we very often say, damn, this is just like a movie. I feel like we're living in a movie right now. I feel like we're living in, you know, I feel like we're living in Snowpiercer. I feel like we're living in The Day After Tomorrow. Like, we relate our lives to movies all the time. And so, watching Snowpiercer, it definitely feels like tomorrow we could be eating each other. We are eating each other now. Like, constantly we're being pitted against one another.
Yeah, I mean, that's by design, right? When people are hungry, they're going to fight. You know, it's a difficult thing to deal with, but that's why that's why we have capitalism as our, you know, everybody's left fighting for the crumbs while the opulent hold all of the resources. And so, yeah, it's just time to realize and convey that that's a structural issue. Just kind of like he really, really, really brings home, as Gavin said, in an unsubtle way, the dismantling of the system being the dismantling of the train. You know, you cannot modify who's in charge if your structure is based on relegating people to, you know, fighting at the end of the street, you know, fighting over crumbs, essentially, right? If you're going to be operating a system that is, you know, fueled by child labor, child exploitation, exploitation from the global south and intentionally underdeveloped parts of the world, then that's never going to be a just system. It doesn't matter who's in charge, right? You're always going to be corrupted if you're trying to steer that train, because the train can only be powered by corruption, by exploitation, etc. So the only just thing to do is to get rid of the train. I think that the only just thing to do is obviously get rid of capitalism. So, yeah.
Amen. All right, so we have about 5 minutes left. So, guys, what do you have coming up that we need to be looking forward to?
Coming up, I guess just our regular program show. Tomorrow we'll probably be going live to talk about some news. Like I mentioned, definitely cover what's gone down at the Capitol today, in addition to a bunch of other shit. So, yeah, that's exciting. But other than that, I mean, no big announcements to make or anything like that. You guys are definitely welcome on the Vanguard at any point, though. We'd definitely love to have you on to just talk about the news, or to do a pop culture segment, talk about some film and media.
Yeah.
Definitely.
One thing that I did want to quickly plug, we're this week, I believe we're going to be having on Major Danny Surson again. He's going to come on to talk about the road from 9/11 and the endless wars, and how that's being pivoted from the Middle East to the north, and basically all of the continent of Africa. So as we participate in coups in Mali, which I'm sure most people haven't heard about, or bombing the crap out of Somalia for who knows what reason. He'll be there to kind of sort that all out. Obviously the military-industrial complex never sleeps; it only pivots. So we'll have some good insight from the Major, for you guys on that. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is really high level. Love Major Danny Surson because he does such a good job of distilling that for everybody else. So that's one of the more serious topics we'll be covering this week. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to Fred Hampton Leftist if you're listening. That's for sure. Give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe. See, we'll do all your housekeeping for you because it's just so part of our routine.
Thank you guys so
Thanks.
much. Yeah, let's put up those banners too while we're here. Yeah, so definitely make sure to hit like and subscribe, guys. Follow Fred Hampton Leftist on Twitter. Go to our website, and also go to our shop and get some merch, guys. Like, we've all seen the Force to Vote mug. We all want a Force to Vote mug.
Spicy.
Come on. Yes, we have some good Nerdolitics merch. We got Capitalism Kills merch. So definitely go to the shop and get some Nerdolitics and FHL merch. And support us on Ko-fi, guys. Don't forget to support us on Ko-fi, FHL Network on Ko-fi. And if you want to support Nerdolitics, tag Nerd. Alright, so real quick. So the Killjoy Guide, as you guys know, has moved to Sundays at 6. I did not have a show last night, but thank you to Rome for stepping in for me. That was a good stream that he had going on. So definitely check out the Killjoy Guide coming up this coming Sunday. I will have some content coming up sometime this week as well. I have a couple of good interviews coming up. And obviously catch us here every Monday on Nerdolitics. Next week we're going to have a really spicy panel to talk about is Batman a cop? So keep an eye out for that. We're going to have Franco, Bess, Chris, and we might have Nico. We're not sure about Nico yet, but definitely keep an eye out for that next week. And Jackie, do we have any responses yet for our questionnaire that we have out?
Do we have the questionnaire out?
Oh no, do we not? Well, guys, go on to
Ko-fi.
Oh, guys, start going on the Ko-fi, Patreon, and Rockfin, and start telling us what movies that you want us to cover. Because the last Monday of September, we will be doing polling, and we're going to cover one movie, and whoever is at Happy Movie Watcher, you'll also be invited onto the show. So we will get that questionnaire out ASAP. That way you guys can start telling us what movies that you want us to check out. All right, Jackie, anything else?
Nope, that's about it. It'll be up later today.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
It
it.
was awesome. Oh, and definitely, Robin, make sure to go for mutual aid links. We all love mutual aid here at FHL. All right, guys,
And
this
thanks
has
again
been
for all of
yes.
our awesome watchers like Bess, Robin, Quaker, Holly, everybody who comes every week. You guys are awesome.
Yes, you guys are awesome. Thank you to our regs. All right,
Okay.
guys, this has
See ya.
been Nerdolitics. We'll see you next time.